Hi guys. In a mix of magic, comedy, and explosive suspense, failed stand-up comic Trip Monroe has become the last line of defense against a powerful extra-dimensional overlord. In other words, Earth's last best hope is a joke. That's the first few lines, or sorry, that's the title page intro to every issue of Hokum Hex. Hokum Hex is the second in the Razorline series that I'm looking at. And as I recall from 30 years ago, it was my favorite of the set. Ironically, I preceded this review with the review of Hyperkind 1 through 5. This is, of course, Hokum Hex numbers 1 through 4. The next issue of both books are crossovers between them. So I'll do those together and then move back to doing Hyperkind and Hokum Hex independently, unless there's another crossover. I don't expect them. There's only 9 issues of Hokum Hex to go through, so it is what it is. But it is definitely my favorite of the Razor lines from my memory. I suspect I may enjoy either Saint Sinner or Ecto Kid, the other two titles in the series in the line. Sorry, just got a notification on my screen. But I suspect I may enjoy one of the other two titles a little more than I used to. Ecto Kid especially may be something more up my alley, as it were. But this book is already extremely entertaining. My favorite book by Clive Barker is Imagika. And this one talks a lot about the Decamundi and the idea that there are other worlds and things like that, which is something that Imagika dealt with very much. If you've never read any of Clive Barker's work, I would recommend Neverwhere, actually, I believe Neverwhere may be Neil Gaiman, so I do apologize if I'm wrong there. But Imagika and Weave World, I know, are Clive Barker's works that I've read. I was introduced to Clive Barker and Neil Gaiman at about the same time, so they somewhat blend in my memory. But Hokum Hex is... I wouldn't even say it's a 90s book. It's very much a... It's got a timelessness to it. It's the sort of thing that I'm reading now, and I could see being made into a movie. There is a degree of proto-wokeness to it, which, in the case of one character, Wrath, the female bounty hunter from the third book, it's played very much over the top and to an extreme. In fact, almost to the point of caricature. Someone's car alarm is going off. Just a moment. Oh, it's already stopped. In any case, yeah, the book is something of a slightly meta twist on Doctor Strange. In the, I guess the footnotes or the discussion pieces about this series, Clive Barker did in fact call it his version of Doctor Strange. And I'd say that's fair. There's magic, but it's explained in a superpower sort of way. Yeah, there's I would say it's verging on science fantasy, but it's still more in the science fiction realm. At least at this point. It may change in the future issues. I'm not sure. I've actually just gotten to the last issue that I read in the original run when they were released in the early 90s. Very enjoyable. I would recommend this book. It's got that appeal of the bright-colored Silver Age innocence that comic books had. But because it's Barker's influence, there's still a degree of maturity to the storytelling that isn't even present in comic books nowadays. And comics now are really meant for older audiences, whereas when they were writing them in the 90s, they were meant for a mid-teen kind of audience. And like the X-Men books of the time, the vocabulary is extensive. There's some solid meta. The books are self-referential in terms of the fact that it's a Marvel product, to the point that they call Stan Lee's name silly, which it kind of was. To the point that the main character's first name is actually Irving. If you're a long time Marvel fan, the name Irving Forbush will tickle some nostalgia nerve endings in your head. But yeah, it's a very enjoyable book. The character development is actually really good. Here's a very good example of the maturity level. There's a probably 1.5, 3-page kind of banter about free will versus determinism from a psychological aspect. So there's some philosophy being dealt with in this book. And it's not really part of the main storyline. It is. It does affect the story, and it definitely informs the actions of the main character. But at the same time, it's not the main meat of the story. The main hero is good, period. And it's done through show don't tell. Early in the first book, he gives money to a homeless guy. And he's down on his luck himself. It's the kind of, okay, it's a bit urbanite, but it's the kind of thing that someone in that time period, and this is one of the beautiful things about reading a book that's this old, is you get a little bit of a view into the microcosm, into the zeitgeist of the time. And it gives you essentially a little bit of a cultural anthropology lesson. And the beautiful thing is there's none of this racial tension. It's very clearly, firmly fixed in the 90s when the racial tension was pretty much gone from North America, at least. It's very much not a woke book. I'll definitely give it that. The power set of the main character is somewhat reminiscent of Magneto in that it's played simple, but it's got monstrous potential. And as those first 4 books progress, the main character moves from being essentially instinctive to a little bumbling while he's attempting to control his power to, I wouldn't say he's mastered it, but he's become somewhat adept with it. Or at least competent. The larger subplot from Hyperkind, the cover-up of the superhero's existence. Just a moment. There's a bit of a nastiness on the camera lens. But the cover-up of the superhero's involvement, or the superhero's existence, rather, is also playing a part in this book. And it's more from the 4th book into this crossover. So it's a good lead-in. It's a good place to stop if you're getting ready to do a crossover. So I'll give the writers kudos for that. They're very good at their craft, unlike writers today. But yeah, if you're looking for something to read, I mean, Hokum Hex issues 1 through 4 at least are definitely worth your investment. If you can find a digital copy for a decent price. I wouldn't pay anything close to what collector prices are for these comics. They're niche as hell. Even when they were released, they weren't a good investment idea. And in fact, it's kind of funny that they somewhat spoof the idea of investment comics in the 4th book. Yeah, I'm trying my damnedest not to spoil anything because it is worth not having spoiled for you. But yeah, if you get a chance, definitely pick up the first 4 issues of Hokum Hex. I suspect the next 5 will also be worthwhile. So that's my review for today. Do check my Rumble channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment here, of course. If it's your first time commenting, please make yourself known. I do enjoy talking to new people. I try to respond to every comment. YouTube doesn't always give me the notifications in a timely manner. But by all means, make yourselves known. Let's see, you can find me on Getter and Gab. Those links will be in the description. I do have access to my Twitter, though it's been placed in permanent read-only state. I don't think I need to discuss why. If you want to know why, you can check out my Rumble channel for my Friday exclusives. They're under For F's Sake Friday. There is no playlist compilation set up for Rumble as yet. The moment that's available, I will be putting that together as well. What else have I got going on? Thursdays are the Shades of Dominion. If you were around Thursday night last week, I keep forgetting this is actually coming out on Monday. I'm recording it on a Friday. Little bit of behind the scenes for you. Yeah. Little trick you may not be aware of. We actually record these things a little earlier than we post them. Tegla is done. The final story in the Driftwood People series from my buddy Cassandra Garduna. That will be released on Wednesday. It will be released in its entirety on Wednesday, as with the weather getting warmer and nicer, as you can see the sunlight on the side of my face. It's getting to the point of being nice enough to be able to be out here in the shed to do some work, as opposed to back in the winter when I was freezing my toes off just doing these. And you can still see my breath. It's actually kind of frosty today. We had some unexpected snow last night. Not as unusual as you might think for Newfoundland this time of year. The 20th of April and the 20th of September, we can always get snow. What else? But just to put the final cap on it, I suppose. The main character he's reminiscent of the innocence of characters like Superman in the Golden Age. Not quite that innocent, but he definitely starts off as an underdog, and it's not until about the middle of the 3rd into the 4th book that he really starts to get his feet under him, which is really nice character progression to see. It's not too fast-paced, but it's not exactly a dragging, slow slog until he gets to the point of competence either. What else would I say? The character has an anachronistic sensibility about him. He's more of a 30s vaudeville type fella, as opposed to being ultra slick 90s character, which is good. The ultra slick characters in the 90s, which kind of began about a year or so before these books were released, and carried on for the next 4 or 5 years, which kind of eventually turned me off of comics for a very long time. That sort of innocence is one of those elements of modern comics that's lacking immensely. The wonder has been sucked out of things. And it's really nice to read a book that puts the wonder back in. So, there's that. If you guys are interested, when I complete the series, I may very well do a live stream and talk spoilers and story points, things like that, that I really liked. I may do that as one of my Sunday live streams. I don't know. Anyway, I was going to say, don't forget Sultans of Shadilay tomorrow, but again, I'm filming this on a Friday. Sultans of Shadilay happens on Saturdays. But do join us for the Sultans of Shadilay over on that YouTube channel. Other than that, the only real upcoming projects I have are a little bit of woodworking. This sign above me is one of the projects I intend to get completed fairly soon, at least sometime in this woodworking season. I say season, but I basically have about, this being April, I have until about October, November before it begins to get cold again. However, depending on how things go in my life in the next little while, things may change significantly before that, so I don't know. Other than that, feel free to check out my other playlists. I do a Monday media review every week. I do Terra Nova Tuesdays, which is Newfoundland-focused series. Currently, I'm doing some political stuff, and I may bounce in and out of doing things like that. Wednesdays had been up until, Wednesday coming, the day after tomorrow, when you see this, it had been the focus of those days had been readings, audio recitations or retellings, what have you, of various things. That's going to be put on hiatus until it gets cold again. And I do believe my next focus for readings is probably going to be the Conan stories, because they're in the public domain now, and I really am looking forward to reading those. I'll also look into Solomon Kane. If Solomon Kane happens to be public domain, then I'll do some reading of that as well. Other than that, well, my Thinking Man's Thursday, and of course, now that I'm getting towards the end of the video, I'll use the F word once, my For Fuck's Sakes Friday video on Rumble every Friday, which is basically a rant about something in the news. Yeah, feel free to check all of that out. If you're on any of the Discords I happen to frequent, feel free to say hi. Other than that, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. And as always, rise and rise again until the lambs become lions. Bye-bye.